No. Just before the FNAF movie was revealed, I started getting into the lore, which I'm sure everyone knows is very difficult to get into late. It was just this year I started my binge sessions of game theory videos and let's plays from Markiplier to try and learn everything I could about FNAF as possible. I became obsessed with it and still am. I learned enough about many of the theories and lore to go into this movie with excitement at seeing all these elements playing out right before my eyes in a full story and not as pieces and bits of information. The movie itself did not disappoint. There were a lot of moments in the theaters that had me like, I'm going to get this out of the way. As a movie alone, it wasn't a perfect movie. A lot of people that don't know a thing about FNAF probably went in expecting a scary movie, and in that regard, it isn't. In my perspective, I didn't think it was going to be a scary movie because most of the scare factor from the games comes from playing it. What I thought the movie was going to be was a means for Scott Cawthon to finally tell the story he's been working on for all these years in a more finalized state. There was a lot going around during the movie's reveal that the movies would be Scott's last projects with FNAF. And while we may not know for certain if it is, I'd like to think that it was approached as if it was going to be. From years of working on the lore as he went along to finally making a full production that tells his finalized, perfected version of the story. Because while the lore for the game is expansive, there's a reason you get so confused when you try to learn it. It's because a lot of it comes from the theories surrounding it. That's not a bad thing though. For the games, the show don't tell method that left many obscure details is what made it the talk of the community. And in a lot of ways, it's why it became so popular. It's a reason why people like MatPat are considered to have done so much for its popularity. The movie itself, being the first of a trilogy as far as I know, tells more than it shows. It goes the complete opposite route of the games in terms of storytelling. And while that may be a bad thing when it comes to other movies for FNAF, I think it was a good thing. Because it was a way to tell the story enough to fans that spent years theorizing and reading on lore. Regular viewers would complain about how it says so much, but I think a lot of people that's been with the franchise long enough are relieved or excited for certain things to be confirmed in the final story. Now, you may be noticing I've been calling this the final story. And as I said before, I don't know if it is. For all I know, the movies could just be movies alone, and Scott could go back on working on more games with more spread out details. But I doubt he worked on the movies and decided to make them if it wasn't a way to tell a finalized story. A lot of critics gave this movie a low rating. I don't think it deserves that. It did a good job for the fans of the series, and the visuals and attention to detail in that regard couldn't have been better. It's also worth noting that most likely it's not a standalone movie, but one of possibly 3 movies. And so I can bear with the first half of the movie being a bit too story heavy. Because yes, it was a short movie, but if the series is complete and it's watched together, it makes for a good weekend. The movie had no intention of making decisions to be a good enough movie for people that are not part of the fan base. And that's okay. I wouldn't even call myself part of the fan base because of how late I got into it. And yet I enjoyed it and appreciated it a lot. I had also made my girlfriend watch game theory videos a week before I went to watch the movie. And once the movie was over, she was happy she did because she wouldn't have understood anything otherwise. Even during the very intro of the movie with a pixelated animation that shows William Afton taking kids one by one to kill them, she turned to me and was like, I'm glad we watched those videos because I actually know what's going on now. All in all, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is a fun movie and in my opinion a love letter to the fan base. Giving it a 4 like IGN seems harsh as it doesn't take into account what the movie is. And even Moist Critical, whose movie ratings I mostly agree with, also rated it around a 4. And while I mostly agreed with his review of the movie, I don't agree with his rating of it. I'm going to instead include this one little detail. For those who are not Five Nights at Freddy's fans and know nothing about the lore, as a movie alone, the movie is probably a 5 out of 10. and not 4 because of its amazing set design and atmosphere. For those who are fans and have been into the lore for a longer time than me or as long as me, even if you don't know every single thing there is to know, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's not a perfect movie, not by any means, but it's a lot of fun to watch. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button and demolish that subscribe button. And also turn on those bell notifications for new uploads. Goodbye.